Om Namo Narayana. Welcome. My name is Aurélie. I'm a Vedic astrologer, and today we're going to be talking about this full moon, the dark moon that follows, and more specifically, what predictions. So I have a presentation, and I'm going to go through it rather quickly. So this full moon in Scorpio, what is Scorpio? Scorpio is the natural 8th house. It's a water sign. It's also the place of debilitation of the moon. But Scorpio is the water that accumulates. It's a water that is dirty. It's also represented by wells, water that are deep into the earth. And this natural 8th house shows a place of debt and locked karma. Yeah, the 8th house has this energy of transformation. That's why we associate Scorpio with transformation and deep spiritual insight. But what is a shaman? A shaman is one that is always changing. Yes, that constantly deals with people that need to a part of themselves to die and be reborn. It's an inner war. Okay, so this is the natural 8th house. It does bring greater spiritual awareness, but the moon in this place of the 8th house is not happy. It's this place of debilitation, and it's also what we call Marna Karakastana. It basically just means it's its least favorite house and sign of the zodiac because of this element of constant change. Now, a Scorpio full moon can show an inclination to have constant negative outlook on life. There is a note here on the stock market. Please, this is only for entertainment purposes. For any investments, talk to a professional. So now let's talk about the astrological influences that are going to take part during this full moon. So there are a great aspect, which is an aspect of Jupiter and Venus, which is a great blessing. And it also shows that if you want to go for a spiritual gathering, do any work that is on the line of this spiritual transformation, it's a great time. But there's also this aspect of Rahu and Saturn, and that's air, and that's giving it a curse and a certain energy of storm and change, again with this change. Now, for this Rahu and Saturn conjunction, I'm bringing this up because we should always keep in mind the greater energy of the cycles at play. So right now we're talking about a full moon and a new moon. They follow each other every 2 weeks. It's part of the rhythms of life and the year as the sun moves through the zodiac. And right now the sun is in sidereal Taurus, okay? So that's why we're having this full moon in Scorpio. And in 2 weeks, the moon will travel halfway across the zodiac and meet the sun in Taurus. But if we're thinking about the longer time frame of the next big conjunction, that is a big conjunction that is going to happen with Rahu and Saturn. And we should keep that in mind because things are going to start shifting in the direction of this big conjunction that is going to be brought together. And we're already seeing several agitation. For example, the death of spiritual leader. There was a spiritual leader that was attacked. There's also, we just lost a president in Iran. So we're seeing already some taste, some energy of that great conjunction playing out through time and through this moment. Next May 2025 will be this great conjunction of Rahu and Saturn. I will do a much longer video on this, but it is my personal prediction that we may see a certain history repeating itself. The last time Rahu and Saturn were in Pisces, both Kennedy and Luther King were attacked and murdered. And so we have this big election coming up, and it is a personal prediction that I have that there could be a repeat in history happening with the elect president next year. So let's move on. So Mars is going to transition from Pisces to Aries on May 30th, around May 30th and June 2nd. I'm putting May 30th and June 2nd because these will be the times when Mars is going to be in the low degree and high degrees on both sides. So it'll be Gandanta, going through this like fire water area. So that's showing more war energy. And it's a really important time to keep an eye out for that we're going to see more agitation in this time. Once Mars moves into Aries, we should also note that it's 3 malefics afflicting Aries. On a collective level, that's the collective head of the zodiac, okay? So it could be a little bit of a difficult time. Yeah. Now, this dark moon in Taurus, we're going to have this full moon that we just talked about, which is happening tomorrow and the day after. And in 2 weeks from now, we have this dark moon in Taurus. Okay. During this time of the dark moon in Taurus, that's going to be on June 5th. A few days before, we're going to have a certain dance of the Sun and Venus moving closer into each other. There will be a combustion of Venus. On a very personal note, it's important to be really patient with our love relationship, our romantic relationships, our marriages. Very important to just give it a little time to make a decision moving past the dark moon. So I would say maybe June 6th, June 7th, but just stay calm until we pass that point of the dark moon in Taurus, okay? On a collective level, we have this combination where we already talked about the fact that Mars is going to be moving into Aries, all the malefics, although it will give a protection because it is owned by Aries, all the malefics will have a drishti over Aries. There's going to be this like 3-4 planets building up in Taurus and this combustion showing. So again, and it will be a dark moon. So again, this is going to be a point in time that could be a bit difficult, especially for war zones. We could see this leading up from May 30th, June 2nd, June 4th to this combustion of Venus with the Sun. And then we'll have this June 5th, June 6th, Amavasya right at the head of this combination. We have an Graha Malika Yoga. So right at the head of that, we'll have this combustion. What does that mean? That during this period, we should also take in consideration that Taurus is, it shows our resources, and it's an earth sign. And we know there's been a lot of activity going on, especially we're seeing in Italy, the super volcano. So we could see some further activity around the super volcano that could cause a bit of a curse for the crops or a difficult time for things that are growing. And we could also see some further activity in terms of the sun actually causing some damage or some difficulties with communication, considering that this combination will be of a sun, Jupiter, Venus, and Mercury in Taurus, and all of that with this dark moon. A note to keep things in perspective, it's not all doom and gloom, and all things are changing, and there will be another full moon after this, and there will be better times and more difficult times. So just a reminder, all life is a cycle. Every day is a beginning, every day is an end. Fortunes rise, fall. There are moments of joy and sorrow that is with all of us. Okay, so we have to embrace both the good and the bad and not go into this fear, craziness. Look at, there's war, but people are going to get married, they're going to fall in love, they're going to have babies. Some people will be rich, some people will get poor, some people will lose their life and have a very difficult time, and we should have compassion. So all things in balance, okay? And again, going back to the Scorpio full moon, the cycle of this full moon followed by this dark moon, just reiterating that Scorpio represents this process of death and rebirth and the cycles of change and a certain resilience of spiritual awareness. So let us all have a balanced perspective, especially knowing that Scorpio can have a certain bit of a negative outlook on things, and let's embrace, the duality of life. It's important. Please, this takes me time. Give it a like if you like this presentation so I can do more. Share it with friends. If you want a more like psychosomatic deep dive into the energy of Scorpio, I have a bit of a slower, more meditative video on specifically just on this coming full moon. And I hope you all are well, keeping good and positive, and practicing your mantras. And we'll recite one 8-syllable mantra because it is an 8. We have this full moon in Scorpio, 8th house, 8th sign. So let's say it again. Om Namo Narayanaya. Om Namo Narayanaya. Om Namo Narayanaya.